Self-control is the rarest form of power. The most powerful people are rarely emotional, not because they feel less, but because they reveal less. Machiavelli understood that emotion is information, and information, once exposed, becomes leverage. The moment another person can predict your reactions, your authority begins to dissolve. Power does not disappear loudly, it leaks quietly through impulse. Most people believe power comes from action, from speaking first, from reacting quickly, from asserting themselves the moment they feel challenged. But reaction is not control. Reaction is surrender. The instant emotion dictates behavior, the balance shifts. Anger accelerates mistakes. Fear invites obedience. Desire narrows vision. And those who can provoke these states in others do not need strength, position, or force. They wait, they observe, and they move only after the other person has already lost control. This is why emotional people are easy to manage. They announce themselves constantly. Their tone changes, their pace quickens, their body betrays them. They believe they are expressing authenticity, but what they are really doing is exposing vulnerability. And vulnerability, in the hands of someone patient, becomes a handle. Machiavelli observed that men are governed less by reason than by impulse. They react before they reflect. They speak before they decide. They move before they understand. And because of this, most men spend their lives responding rather than directing. Self-control interrupts this cycle. A man who does not react immediately creates uncertainty. Uncertainty forces others to hesitate, and hesitation is the first crack in dominance. When someone cannot read you, they cannot rush you. When they cannot rush you, they cannot steer you. This is why restraint feels intimidating. It offers no feedback, no reassurance, no emotional confirmation. Silence in response to provocation is not emptiness, it is pressure. It forces the other person to sit alone with their own impulse. Most people cannot tolerate this. They fill silence with words. They fill uncertainty with explanation. They fill discomfort with emotion. And in doing so, they reveal exactly where they are weakest. Machiavelli warned that the greatest advantage a ruler can have is not cruelty, intelligence, or popularity, but composure. Because composure signals something deeply unsettling, independence from reaction. It suggests that external events do not control the internal state. And this threatens those who rely on chaos, urgency, and emotion to gain influence. The emotionally reactive person believes intensity equals strength. They mistake volume for authority. They confuse urgency with importance. But intensity is fragile. It burns quickly. It demands constant reinforcement, and it collapses the moment resistance appears. Self-control, by contrast, does not seek validation. It does not rush. It does not argue its own legitimacy. It simply remains. This is why calm unnerves people who are emotional. Calm cannot be mirrored easily. It creates imbalance, and imbalance exposes dependency. Machiavelli understood that the person who needs to be understood is already vulnerable. The person who needs to be heard is already negotiating. True authority does not explain itself. It does not chase recognition. It does not escalate emotionally to maintain relevance. It waits. Most people cannot wait. They feel compelled to respond, to clarify, to defend, to correct. Each of these impulses feels justified internally, but externally they communicate something else entirely: loss of control. And once control is lost internally, it cannot be maintained externally. This is why emotional people are predictable. Their reactions follow patterns. Insult produces anger. Praise produces softness. Fear produces compliance. Desire produces recklessness. These patterns repeat endlessly, and repetition invites exploitation. Machiavelli observed that to rule effectively, one must never allow another to see what moves them. The moment a man reveals what angers him, that anger will be used. The moment he reveals what he fears, that fear becomes a threat. The moment he reveals what he desires, that desire becomes a leash. Self-control removes these levers. A person who does not react cannot be baited. A person who does not rush cannot be cornered. A person who does not seek approval cannot be threatened with rejection. This is why restraint is mistaken for coldness by those who rely on emotion. They interpret silence as emptiness, but silence often presents refined. Power rarely announces itself, it positions itself. Most people believe dominance comes from winning arguments, asserting opinions, or proving intelligence. But these are performances. They require audience response, and any power that depends on reaction is conditional. Machiavelli understood that true power is unconditional. It does not fluctuate with mood. It does not require reinforcement. It does not spike or crash. It remains steady while others oscillate. This steadiness creates gravity. People begin to orient around it. They measure themselves against it. They hesitate before challenging it, not because they are afraid, but because they are uncertain. And uncertainty disrupts aggression. This is why self-control often appears boring to those who crave stimulation. It does not entertain, it does not provoke, it does not reassure. But boredom is not weakness. Boredom is often what emerges when manipulation fails. The emotionally reactive person is easy to engage, easy to provoke, easy to involve. The controlled person is difficult to access, difficult to move, difficult to read. And difficulty commands respect. Machiavelli warned that men expose themselves more through emotion than through speech. Words can be crafted, emotions cannot. They arrive uninvited, and once visible, they are remembered. Every emotional reaction teaches others how to deal with you. Each outburst redraws the map. Each impulsive response updates the rules. Over time, people learn exactly which buttons to press and which to avoid. Self-control interrupts this education. It keeps others guessing, and guessing weakens confidence. This is why those who lack self-control often feel surrounded by pressure. They believe the world is hostile, aggressive, demanding. In reality, they are simply transparent, and transparency invites intrusion. Machiavelli understood that to remain sovereign, one must be opaque, not deceptive, but reserved, selective, intentional. You do not hide emotion to deceive others, you restrain it to preserve autonomy. Because the moment your internal state is governed by external stimulus, you are no longer free. Freedom begins where reaction ends. This is why self-control is rare. It demands discomfort. It demands restraint in moments when expression feels natural. It demands silence when speaking would feel satisfying. And most people choose relief over discipline. They react because reaction feels honest, but honesty without control is exposure. Machiavelli did not admire repression. He admired mastery. The difference is subtle but absolute. Repression denies emotion. Mastery contains it. Repression leaks. Mastery waits. And waiting is powerful. Those who can wait do not need to chase. Those who do not chase cannot be led easily. Those who cannot be led easily are difficult to rule. This is why emotional discipline has always frightened those in power. It creates individuals who cannot be rushed by fear or seduced by promise. Individuals who do not move simply because the moment demands it. They decide when to move, and decision is the core of power. Most people live in reaction. A few live in command. The difference is not intelligence, it is control. Impulse is the language of those who have not yet learned patience. It feels urgent, it feels honest, and it feels justified in the moment it appears. Machiavelli understood that impulse is not spontaneity, it is exposure. It is the mind surrendering authority to emotion. And when authority collapses internally, it cannot be projected externally. Most people believe impulse makes them authentic. They say what they feel. They act when they feel moved. They follow instinct and call it truth. But instinct left unexamined is rarely wise. It is reactive. It is shaped by fear, desire, habit, and insecurity, forces that do not care about consequence. Impulse creates speed. Power requires timing. This is why those who rush are easy to manipulate. They move before the terrain is clear. They speak before the room is measured. They commit before leverage is established. Their need to act becomes visible, and visibility invites control. Machiavelli observed that those who cannot delay gratification are easily governed. Desire pulls them forward, fear pushes them backward. In both cases, direction is decided externally. The individual believes they are choosing, but the choice has already been framed for them. This is how power reads people. It does not listen first to words, it watches reactions. A raised voice reveals insecurity. A defensive explanation reveals doubt. A hurried response reveals fear of loss. An emotional outburst reveals attachment. Every reaction is a signal. Those who understand this do not argue. They provoke gently. They apply pressure sparingly. They introduce uncertainty and wait. The response tells them everything they need to know. Fear is the most obvious signal, but desire is the most dangerous. Fear makes people cautious. Desire makes them careless. Machiavelli understood that men will betray principles more quickly for what they want than for what they fear. Fear restrains, desire accelerates, and acceleration destroys judgment. This is why temptation is more effective than threat. Threat demands resistance. Temptation invites participation. When someone wants something badly enough, they justify their own surrender. Self-control interrupts this process. A person who does not chase is difficult to trap. A person who does not hunger for validation is difficult to seduce. A person who does not rush toward reward is difficult to corrupt. But most people do rush. They want certainty, they want reassurance, they want resolution, and this impatience creates openings. Machiavelli warned that men reveal their intentions not when they are calm, but when they are pressured by desire or fear. Under pressure, restraint weakens, words spill, commitments are made prematurely, lines are crossed. This is why power applies pressure quietly, not enough to break, just enough to reveal. Those who lack self-control believe pressure comes from others. In reality, pressure is internal. It is the inability to sit with uncertainty, the inability to delay response, the inability to tolerate discomfort without acting. And whoever controls your tolerance controls your behavior. This is why emotional discipline feels unnatural at first. The impulse to react is strong. Silence feels like weakness. Delay feels like loss. But Machiavelli understood that delay is often dominance in disguise. When you do not respond immediately, you force the other person to continue without feedback. They begin to second-guess, they over-explain, they escalate, and with each move, they expose more of themselves. Self-control reverses the flow of information. Instead of revealing, you receive. Instead of reacting, you observe. Instead of committing, you wait. This waiting is not indecision, it is selection. Most people confuse restraint with passivity, but restraint is active. It is the deliberate refusal to be moved by every stimulus. It is choosing not to grant events authority over your internal state. Machiavelli understood that those who react emotionally believe they are defending themselves. In reality, they are surrendering initiative. They allow the situation to dictate their behavior rather than shaping the situation through patience. This is why arguments rarely produce power. They consume energy, they expose position, they invite escalation, and escalation benefits the one who remains calm, not the one who burns brightest. The calm observer always has more options. Impulse narrows choice. Self-control expands it. This is the quiet advantage few recognize. Those who act impulsively believe speed equals strength, but speed without control leads to error, and error compounds. A single impulsive act can undo years of positioning. Machiavelli warned that men destroy themselves more often through haste than through opposition. They rush into decisions they cannot reverse. They speak words they cannot retract. They reveal emotions they cannot hide again. Once revealed, they cannot be unseen. This is why self-control protects reputation. It preserves ambiguity. It allows room for retreat, adjustment, and recalibration. The impulsive man has no retreat. He has already committed publicly. Power favors those who leave doors open. Desire closes doors quickly. When you want something too much, you lose leverage. You become readable. Your eagerness signals dependence, and dependence invites exploitation. Machiavelli understood that those who appear indifferent to outcome possess a strategic advantage, not because they do not care, but because they do not reveal care prematurely. Indifference unsettles people. It removes certainty. It disrupts expectation. Those who rely on emotional leverage grow uneasy when it fails. They push harder, they test more aggressively, and in doing so, they reveal their strategy. Self-control turns the game inside out. Instead of being moved by pressure, you become the pressure. Instead of reacting to events, you let events reveal others. Instead of chasing outcomes, you allow outcomes to come to you. This is why restraint is exhausting for those untrained in it. It demands attention. It demands awareness. It demands the ability to observe emotion without obeying it. Most people do not possess this ability. They confuse feeling with command. They believe emotion deserves immediate action, and so they live in constant reaction. Machiavelli did not see this as a moral failing. He saw it as a strategic weakness, one that could be exploited endlessly. Those who master impulse master leverage. They do not eliminate fear or desire. They contain it. They delay its influence. They refuse to let it speak first. This refusal is subtle, but it changes everything. Because the moment you stop reacting, others start revealing, and revelation is power. When impulse is restrained, something unfamiliar emerges. Silence. Not the silence of confusion or hesitation, but the silence of withheld response. The kind that does not rush to fill space. The kind that allows moments to stretch without explanation. the kind that leaves others unsure whether they are being ignored, assessed, or judged. Machiavelli understood the power of this silence. He saw that words are often given too freely, and that speech, especially emotional speech, weakens position. Silence, by contrast, preserves ambiguity, and ambiguity unsettles those who rely on clarity to dominate. Most people are uncomfortable with silence. They interpret it as absence, as disengagement, as loss. They rush to fill it with reassurance, clarification, or justification. In doing so, they give away information they did not intend to share. Silence reverses this dynamic. When you do not respond immediately, the other person continues. They elaborate, they explain, they attempt to regain control of the interaction. And with every added word, they expose motive, intention, and insecurity. Machiavelli understood that those who speak first often lose ground, not because their words are wrong, but because they surrender initiative. The one who waits decides the tempo, and tempo determines advantage. Delay is not indecision. Delay is selection. Those who rush believe time is against them. Those who control themselves understand that time is a tool. By delaying response, they create pressure without exerting force. They allow the other person's urgency to grow while remaining unmoved. Urgency weakens judgment. This is why calm people appear powerful even when they say very little. Their stillness contrasts sharply with the agitation around them, and contrast magnifies presence. The more composed one person remains, the more chaotic others appear by comparison. Machiavelli understood that authority often emerges not from action, but from contrast. The calm among the reactive, the patient among the impulsive, the silent among the talkative. Silence becomes a mirror. Those who cannot tolerate it see themselves reflected too clearly. Their discomfort grows. They mistake the silence for judgment, and in their effort to escape that feeling, they reveal more than they intend. This is why unreadability is so effective. When people cannot read you, they cannot predict you. When they cannot predict you, they hesitate. Hesitation erodes confidence, and confidence is the foundation of aggression. Machiavelli warned that those who make themselves easily understood are easily handled. Predictability invites management. The unpredictable require caution. Unreadability does not mean dissection, it means restraint. It means choosing carefully what to reveal and when. It means understanding that not every emotion deserves expression, and not every thought requires articulation. Most people believe transparency builds trust, but excessive transparency dissolves authority. When everything is visible, nothing is protected. When nothing is protected, everything is vulnerable. Self-control restores boundaries. By withholding reaction, you force others to operate without feedback. They must act without knowing whether they are succeeding. This uncertainty is destabilizing. It causes overcorrection. Overcorrection leads to error. Machiavelli understood that the most effective pressure is not applied directly. It is created by absence. Absence of reaction, absence of reassurance, absence of resistance. When someone expects pushback and receives silence, they question themselves. When they expect agreement and receive neutrality, they lose momentum. When they expect emotion and receive calm, they feel exposed. Calm does not escalate, it absorbs. And absorption without reaction feels like dominance. This is why calm authority unsettles entire rooms. It does not compete for attention, It does not chase engagement. It does not mirror intensity. It stands apart. Those who rely on emotional energy feel diminished in its presence. Their tactics fail quietly. Their provocations fall flat. And when provocation fails, they are left with nothing. Machiavelli understood that power often lies not in what you do, but in what you refuse to do. Refusing to argue, refusing to explain prematurely, refusing to be pulled into emotional exchange. Every refusal preserves position. Most conflicts escalate because someone reacts. Someone takes the bait. Someone responds emotionally. And once emotion enters the exchange, clarity leaves it. Silence prevents escalation. It denies the other person the satisfaction of reaction. It denies them confirmation. It denies them leverage. And denial, when calm, communicates strength without hostility. This is why silence is often misinterpreted as arrogance by those who depend on engagement. They feel dismissed. But dismissal is not the goal. Control is. Machiavelli did not advocate withdrawal from interaction. He advocated control of it, knowing when to speak, when to listen, and when to say nothing at all. Because speech is irreversible, silence is adaptable. Once spoken, words commit you. They limit future options. They fix position. Silence preserves flexibility. It allows reassessment. It keeps paths open. Power favors those who keep options open. This is why leaders who speak rarely are listened to closely. Their words carry weight because they are scarce. Scarcity signals value. Abundance signals disposability. Those who speak constantly dilute their presence. Those who speak selectively concentrate it. Silence also protects emotion. It prevents others from mapping your internal state. Without that map, they cannot navigate you. Without navigation, they cannot steer. Machiavelli understood that steering is the essence of control, and steering requires knowledge of direction, resistance, and vulnerability. Silence obscures all three. The controlled individual becomes difficult to rein. Others tread carefully, they slow down, they observe, they adjust, and in doing so, they relinquish initiative. This is the quiet transfer of power. No announcement, no confrontation, no force, just composure. Composure is not indifference, it is containment. It is the decision to hold emotion until it serves purpose rather than impulse. It is choosing timing over expression. Timing is everything. A delayed response delivered calmly carries more weight than an immediate reaction delivered emotionally. Delay adds gravity, calm adds credibility. Together, they command attention. Machiavelli understood that those who master timing master outcomes. They do not rush to correct misunderstandings. They allow them to reveal intent. They do not rush to respond to threats. They observe whether the threat is real. Most people react to shadows. Self-control waits for substance. This waiting creates asymmetry. One side expends energy, the other conserves it. One side reveals, the other observes. Over time, the imbalance becomes decisive. Those who cannot tolerate silence exhaust themselves. Those who can accumulate advantage. This is why silence feels powerful even when it says nothing. It shifts responsibility. It places the burden of continuation on the other, and many cannot bear that burden. Machiavelli understood that men fear uncertainty more than opposition. Opposition can be fought, uncertainty must be endured, and endurance is rare. The one who can endure uncertainty without reacting possesses an advantage that cannot be easily challenged, because while others move emotionally, they remain still. And stillness, in a world addicted to motion, feels like command.